where let me see if I can show this to you guys. So if I log in here, so in here, so there's this new thing called rules, right? I don't know why this is untitled. Let me pass that on as well. So what happened here? You deployed this to development, and I'm looking at the rules here, but there are rules for this strategy that says untitled. I thought it is impossible for them to be untitled. I thought title was required. So how do these not have a title? I thought that was a required parameter. And I'm pretty sure that this specific strategy had titles before. So maybe you just renamed the column or something, or is this like a temporary issue? Or is this actually like a problem? And then also, I think enabled and passing, they need to look different because they look too similar. There's enabled and passing look identical, but they're like two different concepts. So they should look different, and I don't understand why this thing is missing the titles. So yeah, so the idea here, let me see if this one has, no. Okay, so the idea here is I'm going to make the title the same as the description, just to show you what I mean, right? But actually, what's even weirder is that I clicked on the rule, I set the title, and then I hit save, and it still says untitled. There's something clearly wrong with this, and you need to have playwright tests around this to validate that it's all working properly. So yeah, so the idea here, wait, what? Or wait, maybe even something weirder is going on here because I clicked on the rule, I changed the title, I hit save, and now for some reason I look at the agent and there's some sort of thing from the agent saying that says update the strategy rule and validate the updated strategy action edit. Why is it going through the agent? I don't understand. This should be just an API directly changing the title. This should not require the agent at all in any way. I mean, the agent can independently do this, but if I'm editing a rule manually, you should just use the API, not send it to the agent. That's something very wrong. And then furthermore, there's an error saying opening strategy file, there's an error. So why did that error happen? And can you please make sure that doesn't happen in the future as well? Fix that too. It's a new feature, so we're still working it out. But so yeah, so the idea here is that we're gonna have a set of rules where yeah, and this thing is still doing something weird here. But yeah, so you have a set of rules, right? So okay, so this is the problem. I personally think with a lot of strategies. It's like, for example, and Maurizio, tell me if you feel that this is the case, because you build a lot of strategies on BotSpot as well, right?
Hmm.
Where you'll tell it, do such and such a thing, right? And then it'll make the edits to the files or whatever,
Hmm.
and then rerun the back test or whatever it needs to do. And then um basically it will try to build that, but then if it doesn't work, it doesn't really know, right? So let's say, for example, if I said, we have this TQQQ strategy, whatever, I'll tell it, okay, well, I want it to also make sure that the 50-day moving average is above the 200-day moving average. So we want to make sure TQQQ is above the 200-day and the 50 days above the 200-day, right? Let's say I added that, right? A lot of times what the agent will do is it will edit the code and then assume that the code worked properly, and then basically just run a back test and that's it, right? But the problem is that the code could be wrong, right? Or in the case of an agent, we also kind of need the rules as well. But for code, if I tell it the 50-day moving average has to be above the 200-day moving average, what we're starting to work on now is that it gets saved to a rule, right? And this is something that you can add on your own, right? You can add in your own rules, right? Or you could edit existing rules if it wasn't done correctly, or the agent can do it for you. And now you have a set of rules, right? Like rule number one will be buy TQQQ when it's above the 200-day moving average, right? Then another rule could be sell TQQQ and hold cash when it's below the 200-day moving average, right? And then you know what I mean? And you could just like keep adding rules, keep adding rules. And these are not directly enforced by the strategy, right? But these can be a good way to check whether your strategy is good or not, right? So you'll run a back test and then you could check after the back test is done, is it following all these rules or not? You know what I mean?
Okay. I see that.
So yeah, so I personally think this is going to make the system work a hell of a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Because what I've been finding a lot of people do is they'll come to BotSpot, they'll try to make a strategy, they'll tell it, I want it to do this, this, and this, right? Then it builds out the code, but the code is not usually perfect the first time around. So you have the person going back and forth with the AI, explaining, like, no, like I told you this, why didn't you do that, right? And you're just kind of going back and forth
Yep.
and checking, right? And that's very
Oh yeah.
annoying, right?
Oh yeah.
Versus we could just have the AI do that for you, right? Like we just make a set of rules and say, okay, we ran a back test. Did it violate any of the rules, right? And if
Okay.
it violated the rule, fix it and rerun the back test. You know what I mean?
Hmm. That's good because I mean that was one of my questions today because I've been doing some back tests during the weekend. And yeah,
Mhm.
we've had some conflicting issues with my agent, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. It's not,
Yeah, like
the
what, for
numbers do
example?
not add up, you know. I'll give you a prime example because I'm trying to find information, I'm trying to analyze my strategy, right? And so I'll tell it, okay, well, tell me what that day high was, and then tell me the one where you sold it at that day. And so what it did was it listed out the price that it sold it was higher than the day high. And I was like, that's impossible. How can that be possible? It just,
Hmm.
yeah, some of the math is just not mathing. Should just say that.